Welcome, everyone. Welcome to this governance proposal office hour, or you could call it an AMA. These are events that we'll be holding for the more sort of complex and more less obvious proposals on the Oath Governance Forum, so the community can get a better idea of what's being proposed. And so we're talking about the Yearn proposal today. You can find the Yearn proposal on oath.forum.eco. I will link it in the chat here shortly. But forum.oath.eco, thank you. Yeah. And we've got Corn here from Yearn. Val is also in the audience from Yearn. So welcome, guys. Thank you for coming here. Thanks for your willingness to discuss the proposal. And yeah, so I'm just going to start it off just by asking for a little bit of an overview of the proposal. And maybe you could give some insight as to why this might be beneficial for both parties. And Bebis, feel free to chime in here as well.
Sure. So as I was writing this, I kept thinking to myself, well, the way that we've designed our new Vaults v3 product kind of like makes a lot of this more simple for you guys to take control of your own vaults and strategies on your own, while also saving time having to not deal with your own yield farming. But you know, that is a new technology that's not even out yet and needs to be tested and proven a lot. And this is a proposal that uses Vaults v2, which has been out since 2021. So this one has definitely been proven. If it was going to be hacked, it would have been hacked, and it's pretty much bulletproof. So this is the product that has been used all along and had $6 billion in it at one point. So the purpose of this proposal is to onboard all of the yield farming activities that go and use Aave and Son on Optimism. We'll manage all of that. So Ethos, like the Oath community contributors, don't have to worry about it. So we were discussing doing this for only single side deposit vaults like WBTC, WETH, Optimism, Token, and the stables. And I know in the proposal I mentioned that there are 3 yield strategies, but truth be told, today, currently, where APYs are, we're only using the Aave optimizer strategy for all these vaults today. We will consider using Son again when the yields go back up. We have done a full audit, actually. They did a Y audit engagement with us for that, and that strategy took a long time to get through our risk framework, and I'll talk about the risk framework also. But that one took a while because Son is a completely new project, and new projects tend to take months, if not like many months, to be approved for us to use, because especially these days we are super risk off. So what else is important for me to mention here?
I think maybe I'll kind of color this commentary from our perspective, being, you know, we've spent the past 6 months talking to market makers, talking to whales, getting them familiar with how Ethos Reserve works and where the points of risk are. And they're getting to a point where we've been in production a while. Everything has been going very smoothly. And overall, like the ERN token and our architecture is slowly making its way into the scope of operations of some of these, stable asset funds or similar. And I think really, to me, there's a little bit of a disconnect between, the Reaper strategies, which are very complicated, have some of the best risk-adjusted yields in the entire industry, but I think, have a different market than necessarily someone managing 8 to 9 figures in stable coins, especially in DeFi stable coins. So, when I bring up the potential for Yearn to handle the management underlying, eyes light up a little bit because, they see a lot of potential in our architectural approach being, hey, we're going to try to, with as little risk as possible, generate yield with these underlying assets. The connection to traditional banking infrastructure is very obvious. It makes sense as a business model, and it's just tough to push forward. And adding a name like Yearn into the equation, especially while we're still battle testing some of our own yield infrastructure, really gives people an added sense of security. And I think it's much needed in these early conversations, and I think Yearn is maybe the perfect partner to level up that assuredness for people, if that makes sense.
We are definitely, this proposal is about keeping it simple. We're not going to take on like leverage positions. We're not going to do anything risky. This is about our most basic form of up-only farming that there is.
Yeah, and I think additionally, we're a small grassroots team, and while we generally punch above our weight class on the engineering end, getting people to recognize our security chops or getting people to recognize our commitment to, best practice is much harder than it is to just, say, hey, here's your, and I think, this
Just
is
tell
like.
everybody you did the first block of Y Academy. You should lead with that.
Yeah, I mean that doesn't, like, most people are like, what's Y Academy? I show them my wizard NFT and they're like, what is this? Are you psycho? And then it devolves from there. But
We had 125 applications in the last block, and we only accepted like 20 people. So as that program gets older and older, like there's a little prestige in there. There really is.
we have 5, 6, or 7 Byte Mason engineers who have been through Y Academy.
It's good.
So yeah, we go extremely hard, and I think a lot of our best practice we borrow from you as thought leaders in the yield space, or at least like the turbo risk managed yield space. But yeah, I'll let Charles kind of take us through the further questions, but I really see a ton of synergy here, and I'm doing BD all day nowadays. And I think this is exactly the ingredient Ethos needs to break open the purse strings of some of these market makers and stable asset fund managers.
Yeah, no doubt. No doubt. And like, yeah, on top of the sort of the responsibility being shared now by Yearn and taking some of the development time away from the necessary development time away from the engineers, under the Oath ecosystem. Yeah, I mean having Yearn manage a part of a protocol is pretty. I don't know. When I look at that as a user, I'm like sick. Like clearly someone here knows what they're doing because of the reputation that you guys hold, the really awesome reputation that you guys have. So yeah, okay. So Corin, you mentioned a bit about the strategies, the how they're 100% Aave at the moment. So I wanted a very popular question in the community was wondering about the process of changing or revamping a strategy with the shifting conditions of the market. And will Yearn have a process to inform Ethos of the strategy changes, and how would that look like? Or will the Ethos community just have to sort of take it as is, and you guys will just sort of forge on in that capacity?
The way that this was proposed and that I had intended it to be was you guys using the vaults and assuming that whatever risk adjustments that we made or whatever allocations that we decided to make were safe. As this relationship grows, I think we can change that. As you guys hold more of a stake in what we do in optimism allocations, I think it would be important that we communicate frequently about that, and that we weigh in your decision, because you're not just some project who only has one back-end developer and one guy doing the front end. You have a lot of people, and you have people who also have a lot of security talent, and I think that is only going to add to this.
Yeah, and I think naturally as well, our team is going to stay on top of these Yearn system changes. Val mentioned that they have continuous monitoring of external dependencies. I guess I'm wondering, maybe this is one for you, Val, if there is a way to, or a client front end, whatever. I know there's a way we can look at the smart contracts, but if there's a way to see in an interface if a strategy is being added, if a strategy is being upgraded. I mean, I think, for most people, you can assume that Yearn is going to take the best, lowest risk action. I think, that is your product market fit a little bit. It's like, oh, I don't want to have to think about it, so I'm going to go to Yearn. I think also on the other end, part of DeFi is being antithetical to the trust-based traditional finance system. So, I mean, I would be keen to help in efforts, even at the very least monitoring. We're going to have up to $6 million, probably more in the coming months, of assets in the Yearn vaults. So yeah, I mean, I think this just needs to evolve with time and bandwidth. And I feel like I talked to you and Dudeson enough lately that probably this stuff will come up anyway. But yeah, I think we'll kind of work on something like that, and we'll try to
Dudeson actually doesn't do vault allocation stuff, so that is another team.
Okay. Well, I can also annoy Val. I don't know if he'll like that.
Yes, you can.
But yeah, I'll keep the conversation going, and I think, given that we're sort of the manager at the top end, it definitely makes sense for our team to handle a lot of that monitoring and a lot of that due diligence. So that fits within our existing workflow. And as necessary, as we grow and as we be, my ideal scenario is we account for like half or more of your single asset vaults. And I think that's, a very high potential. So definitely these decisions can be made collaborative over time. But I think we just need to feel things out in the meantime. I don't imagine you guys are going to do much more than Aave until optimism matures a bit. So definitely a good problem to have when it becomes one.
Yeah. We are always on the lookout for new strategies to make also. So we can collaborate, like you and Val and us, and figure that out.
Yeah, and Yearn.watch looks really great. Thanks, Val. I'll bookmark that.
Oh yeah, cool.
There's also another there's another front end that we use sometimes to monitor the health and allocation of vaults also. I will share
Nice.
that with you guys after.
Cool. Very cool. Yeah, this looks really great. But yeah, Charles, if you want to keep the train moving.
Yeah. Yeah, a couple people have asked, myself included, about the fee structure of the vaults and whether there will be any changes in the fee structure that you currently have for other types of vaults, or whether they will remain the same. And if so, I don't know if you've got those numbers at top of mind. No
Yeah, I know what
pressure,
they
but
are.
yeah, nice. Okay.
So all single deposit vaults are a 20% performance fee, which is just 20% of the profits of each harvest. And all of the like Velodrome LP and any factory vaults, those are all 10% performance fee. So there's no management fee. Even when we move to Vaults V3, the way that that's going to work is the vault and strategy is going to be a zero fee by default, and whoever created it and is managing it, can set their own fee. And they will split that fee, management fee or performance fee, with Yearn 80/20. So we're always going to stick with that like 20%, even in the next version of this product. So
Yeah.
Nice.
I guess maybe adding on to that, I know there has historically been partnership arrangements wherein if a protocol is building on Yearn or
mhm.
Yearn is plugging into a protocol, depending on the TVL distributed, some of those fees would find their way back.
Yeah.
I'm wondering if anything like that's in place.
Well, it's not in place yet, but we have to do that integration still. It's really easy. There's like a wrapper contract, and all you have to do is make a PR for it with your contract address in it. It's really easy, and I'll show it to you guys after. But we do have the partner program still, and based on your TVL each month, we'll pay out a percent of the fees in addition. So
Cool.
back in 2021, this program was like a main source of revenue for like Alchemix and Abracadabra. They had a ton of TVL with Yearn, and today this program is less powerful, but it's still there. And if we're gonna get to like 30 plus $1 million in TVL for this, it'll be meaningful.
Yeah, I think probably a conversation we'll have offline is figuring out how to adapt the mainnet incentive structure to a less liquid L2 network in a bear market.
And it does
I
scale up to half of the fees, the program.
yeah, I recall it was like a really powerful program, and we we're taking some learnings from it from Reaper or with Reaper. So yeah, really, really cool. I know at one point in early Ethos Reserve development cycles, when we were going to, or when we were thinking about deploying on Ethereum, um, we were thinking about trying to partner up with you guys early on ETH mainnet. And maybe that'll still happen. I think, we're all kind of scared of paying those gas costs and then seeing what happens. But yeah, I think there's a lot of exciting opportunity as both of our teams expand.
100%. 100%. So, Rolio had a question in the question thread that we'd posted before. He or she says, "What will Trove owners get for this contract risk caused by the strategies as there are alternative CDP protocols that don't have this kind of risk?" I feel like I could take a stab at this one. I mean, the what Trove owners get is the yield, right? Like, I guess, you know, um, like the extra contract risk that is included with any sort of rehypothecation. Hate to use that word, but the point of it all is to get really like the best in class yield from the underlying collateral. So yeah, I feel like that is what the users of Ethos Reserve are getting. And like as was mentioned, the Yearn and Reaper as well, like those two protocols being so off risk. It's all about trying to mitigate the contract risk to as little as humanly possible. And it's hard to think of another team that's on Yearn's level in terms of risk mitigation. But yeah.
Yeah,
Bebis,
I
do you
mean,
have
I
anything to add
guess
to that?
all of the yield earned underlying by the platform, which in these early stages isn't a ton. Um, all of that is saved to be distributed to people using the platform. So Ethos Reserve will probably be uh, the center of ecosystem incentives overall. So using staked earn, getting incentives there, all of our VE NFT and yield farming opportunities with stable assets. Um, the optimism grant, in addition to all the underlying yield generated, goes to Ethos Reserve users. I guess maybe an important thing coming will be on Monday. We're talking about how we're going to enhance some of these feedback loops. I think you know, seeing the absolute lowest risk yield on optimism, it's not like super high. The risk is relatively low that we're taking. But yeah, I think we can make it go a lot further. And we're going to be exploring some ideas in that domain next Monday. And overall, yeah, to Roelio's point, 80%, if Yearn is taking the other 20% of these harvests, would be going to users of Ethos Reserve.
Yeah. More specifically, ERN stability providers, ERN stakers / STERN holders.
Do you guys have a
stacked.
schedule for your optimism rewards yet, or like have any idea of the window of time it'll be active for?
Yeah, so we have a year-long grant that scales from $20,000 to $200,000 in OP. So yeah, it's been active since late April. So we are
Nice.
coming up on our fourth disbursement. And yeah, I mean, our goal really is to try to climb up that KPI ladder and see how much mass we can build. But yeah, pretty much every resource goes to Ethos Reserve stakeholders.
We're a little bit over $1 million of TVL per every $1,000 of rewards.
Yeah, that's really great. And I think there's also like a lot of opportunity otherwise with possibly even wrapping Ethos Reserve into a Yearn strategy, which of course is probably a long ways off. But you know, we're going to constantly be looking for opportunity through Yearn and through every platform on Optimism to really maximize the utility of Ethos Reserve. And yeah, it's a powerful tool, and the yield will be increasingly sustainable for that ERN token.
And STERN is making its debut as a composable, providable asset across different ecosystems. So keep your eyes out, folks, for that STRN token. Quick side note. Okay, so a couple people were wondering. I feel like I know the answer to this, but is there any place for Reaper to remain as taking a part of the weight of the collateral distribution, if that makes sense. Like, is there any sort of period of transition where Yearn is going to take a certain percentage and that percentage increases over time? Or, granted this proposal gets passed, will we fully switch to Yearn vaults right away?
Well, I would do it slowly just so we can maintain good APYs because we're loading optimism rewards weekly and I want to make sure that nothing gets absolutely crushed for a whole week.
Mhm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
we should do this, over the course of like maybe 2 to 4 weeks.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. Small migration period, but the end goal is to uh, go all 100% to Yearn. Is the
Yeah. We just finished our Yearn adapter um, strategy, which is under review at the moment internally. And once we add that, probably what we'll see is a slow, allocation toward Yearn, um, to the point at which, I mean, there's a chance, this is still kind of under discussion, that we may just allocate 100% to Yearn. Um, we're giving up a lot of yield on the Sona front and the granary front. Um, but I would say in terms of like automated emergency response and risk management tooling, um, we probably need maybe another 3 to 6 months before we can absolutely say risk is on the floor. We're rewriting a lot of our DevOps in Rust at the moment, just for that added reliability. And in that transitionary period where we're still relying on TypeScript, we're just like not 100% ultra comfy. So I think really the issue we run into is, I mean, not even if there's necessarily an exploit. Granary and Sona are two really like great platforms in terms of how they're managing development and how they're reducing risk platform wise. But really, there's just the kind of peripheral risks of ecosystem dependencies. There's the risk of, a multi-sig being attacked by social engineers. Um, and, I think especially given our experience on Phantom with multi-chain, it seems some months we spend more time on emergency response and risk management process than we do on development. And working with Yearn takes a lot of that heat off, while
We
we
actually
continue to
we
automate.
we added some seats to the Son multisig. That was one of the prerequisites that we had for making a strategy for them to begin with.
Nice.
uh,
Yeah, I'm on their multi-sig. I remember that March. So yeah, it's shout out to Val who does most of the work on the multi-sig. But yeah, it's pretty validating seeing you guys working with Sun. We hope to get you guys working with Granary as well a little bit more closely as we scale up our optimism operations. But yeah, I think overall, just like the money we save even on man hours spent is massive, like per month. It's really huge. So internally it's a cost savings, and hopefully it will add just a lot more reliability and maybe even let us push that managed percent up more and more.
So,
look at that.
so did you conclude that you wanted to move faster?
We're going to move incrementally. Fast to us is like a month.
All right. Yeah.
That's like
Okay.
ultra light speed. So,
I think we've
relatively
got
fast.
this. I think we've got the same cadence. We just have to make sure Dude Son knows to load more rewards to the single side strategies. That's all.
Yeah, nice. Load those rewards. But yeah, cool. And we'll make sure to telegraph all of these changes for the community and for your team as we make them. Assuming that the proposal gets passed. I know I'm going to be voting for it. And I know a lot of our team members are going to be voting for it. I think a lot of the value as well isn't even communicated in the proposal, being the cost savings and bandwidth savings on our team. So we can focus on perfecting our DevOps for the Reaper.farm platform. And then when the time comes to integrate and really batten down the hatches, we don't have to sweat it at all. So yeah, Yearn just being Yearn, a really reliable solution.
For anyone listening to the audio, Rolio is asking, why not just use Yearn vault receipts as collateral, making that possibly a more simple process. But yeah, Bebis gave an answer here, being that there aren't Chainlink oracles for receipt tokens. So you'd have to it would actually be a more complex, not necessarily contract wise, but you run into a bunch of problems with pricing and liquidations and emergency response. So just for anyone who isn't reading the chat,
it just opens up like one, being able to manage the percent reserves available to Ethos is really important. And then on the other side of that, we can just manage the risk profile of the Ethos platform very specifically instead of having to rely on Yearn's risk management framework. Not necessarily that it's bad, but just that it's different. Yeah, I think having a bunch of different vault tokens and letting people borrow them, it also, like, being able to decouple the yield from the core asset allows us to create a more unique value proposition, because otherwise people are just going to loop tokens. They're going to dump the stable coin. We're going to need to hire market makers. Redemptions are going to pull people's collateral assets out from under them. There's just a bunch of complications. And by kind of taking that opportunity cost and diverting it to the stable coin, we gain a huge amount of peg stability, as we've seen way too much, because we're well over peg. But I think what you'll see, Roelio, is Ethos Reserve is a lot better equipped to handle exotic assets due to the fact that so much of the collateral is stripping away the opportunity cost, and that overall we're stripping away opportunity cost. And sure, it's being given back. It's just being given back in a different capacity. So instead of your use case being interest-free leverage on interest-bearing assets, your use case becomes stable asset yield, which is a way more scalable use case. It's way more challenging. But we released our spec quite a while ago for Ethos Reserve, and talking about when it was called EUSD, and then we saw Libra kind of come out with the same playbook on Ethereum. And an interesting thing about Ethos Reserve and how we built it, a team like Libra talking about coming to L2s when they rely on the actual Lido protocol to work. We have this proprietary code base that can actually strip wrap stake ETH and do the same use case with demonstrable product market fit on L2s and on alternate networks. So it adds complexity and it adds a lot of challenges, but there's a reason Libra is winning the race, because product-wise, they're able to deliver a lot more by shifting the risks and the rewards more intelligently. And we can do the same thing with any asset in any which way we want, which is extremely dope. And for now, the code base is proprietary because we're small little guys and we need time to scale. But I think we'll find this pattern being used more and more and more because it's a really great demonstration of DeFi's strengths? If
Mm-hmm.
that's a good answer. It's a question I answer a lot. And, it's kind of like people saying, why don't you take the easy way? And sometimes I ask myself that because, it's a lot easier to say, hey, Mr. Market Maker or stable asset fund manager, we just have a boilerplate liquidity fork here and they're instantly comfortable. But I think to scale DeFi and to actually compete with TradFi and to actually create sustainable incentive models, we need to, build in the way we've built, being we need to be able to manage risks and rewards and develop nuanced product. Because Ethos Reserve as a code base can be used in maybe 1,000 or 100,000 or infinite different ways. And while we push toward Ethos v2 and keep testing things out, we're going to see Ethos Reserve as a system everywhere. And that's kind of the whole point is there's infinite room in these, stable coin markets. There's infinite appetite for stable coin yield. And if we are the stable coin yield protocol capable of generating returns on more than just shitcoin emissions, then, there's a really strong potential to occupy a ton of market verticals and really take over. But yeah,
Mm-hmm.
hopefully
Man, if I was a market maker, I would just ask you guys how much you need right now.
yeah. I mean, that's the thing that sucks with being like a freaking grassroots org because like, we're friends with people who work in the industry, but people peripheral to the industry like TradFi guys, it's like we need to knock down their doors. But we're finally gaining traction. And yeah, it's just a big challenge, but our shit's dope, I think. And Yearn is going to make it even doper. And
Yeah.
if we want to occupy 10 different market verticals with our stablecoin products on Optimism, we could just plug into Yearn 100 different times. But
Yeah. Yeah. When I think of the our shit's dope, exactly. When I think of the uniqueness of Ethos, it just like the flexibility to adapt to the changing market conditions, to be able to optimize the yield for ERN holders and STRN holders, is what really kind of hits home for me. And now we have the opportunity to sort of like plug into that and leverage all the experience that comes with the years that Yearn has been. I almost said Yearn. The experience that Yearn has had in the market. So
there is one
yeah.
thing that I wanted to do is I wanted to add the Earn Stern Velodrome vault on Yearn so that I could tell people that they could earn, and stern with Yearn, which I
God.
think, while also being the most confusing and possibly mentally damaging marketing strategy ever. Um,
I think it
uh,
would catch on.
yeah, I think, it's like I'm going to share a video in the chat. This video is extreme alpha, but I'll let you go on, Charles, as well while I look for it.
Okay. Okay. No, I might have to find a new line of work if you actually start floating that quote as a marketing scheme. um, yeah, let's see. So, oh yeah, no, I've seen this. I've seen this. The Baltimore.
Yeah.
That's hilarious. Yeah. So let's see. I don't know how much else I had here. Um, let's see. Let's see. I think we've covered most things. Wow, we've already done 45 minutes. That's pretty cool. Hmm. I think we covered all of what I had. Again, reminder to the people in the audience. Ask any questions that you feel have not been addressed. But let's see. I think I had
Is
one
Val
more.
making a granary strategy?
Oh
I
my
saw
god.
that.
You guys should consider copy pasting our strategies. We have a granary supply only strategy. We re-implemented Yearn V2 vaults in Solidity and made some changes that we thought were relevant to our business and DevOps. But all the logic should be pretty copy pastable, and I assure you, there was enough autism infused into every line of code that they should meet Yearn standards.
Rolio has another one here. Does Yearn have Nexus insurance possibilities or other insurance possibilities?
That's a good question.
So based on the yields that we have in these vaults, it is too expensive to have Nexus insurance. We've looked at all kinds of insurance projects, and the closest thing we've got to that coming is the junior tranches and senior tranches that Vaults V3 enable, but today, no, there's nothing like that. I think you can engage with some of these third parties on your own, but as a blanket thing, no, there would be nothing left. There'd be no yield left.
Yeah, that's what we found. Like DeFi is purely underwritable. And there's this paper by Tarun Chitra and co. Well, I don't know if Tarun wrote it, but he's probably on it just because he's on everything. But it compared yield farming to this concept of super hedging, being DeFi is so underwritable that you need to be minting insane amounts of shitcoins to make a DeFi position underwritable, at least in the short, medium to long term. So kind of like shitcoining as a necessity for actual institutional adoption of DeFi. And it was a little bit of a retrospective, looking at Aave, looking at Compound. How did they get to where they are? If you look at it in TradFi terms, they basically puked out their whole cap table for free in exchange for 10, 11 figure battle testing. But yeah, it's a pretty cool concept, and unfortunately, Roelio, this is why I don't really recommend DeFi to anybody who's not a developer. You just need to be a security engineer to underwrite anything, or have a friend, or trust the teams behind things. So we have $300,000 of auditing through Code Farina, through some private auditors in our network, through Certic. I think that's really the only path. I've been hitting up insurers on Optimism, and it's just like they have no capacity to insure anything anymore. It's like everything is only if a VC of a portfolio project also invests in Nexus and wants to subsidize the operations. It's just a no-go. It really sucks, but we're early, and I think it will probably pay off business-wise for us and for users. The yield is insane. That's why there are all these stable asset hedge funds who hire the security engineers to make sure shit is tight, and who just market make the hell out of these stable asset pools and beat the S&P 500 by multiples, which is cool of them.
I just saw another question that I had missed. It was partially covered, but I just want to make sure this community member doesn't feel left out. But would Yearn consider adding ByteMason and or other ecosystem contributor signers for such actions as changing a strategy? I feel like you addressed that, which would be letting Yearn take the reins in terms of the strategy decisions for the vaults that reserves on Ethos are in. Is that fair?
That is what I proposed, but if you go and look at the normal Yearn multi-sig, there are a lot of non-Yearn contributors on that. And today, I don't think we have any external parties on our other ecosystem multi-sigs, but it's probably something that we're open to.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. I think Val knows how inactive of a signer I am. I'm like as schizo as I am about validating discords. I'm also schizo about signing transactions. Even analyzing with Tenderly, I'm like, oh, I might miss something. I'm gonna get sued or whatever. But I don't actually think that. Only like a little bit. But I think the maintainer of Ethos, who also actually has the same feelings about multi-sigs, so that it might be a tough sell. But we definitely have some people on staff who would make really, really good signers.
That's good to know. Speed is a requirement.
Yeah, speed is my middle name in the signing game on our
But
internal multi-sigs. But
I think it's really important for like the ecosystem signatures to be people who can look at each transaction and know what's going on and know like what it's doing and not just be the button clickers.
yeah, that's really why I have a hard time with external multi-sigs is one, I'm not making the transaction, and two, you know, if it's a system like Compound, like I have Aave memorized just because of our work on Granary, but a system like Compound, I'm like, pouring through the code base, I'm like, wow, this error management is so awesome. And then, I move on to the next thing. So I read like the weirdest function names ever in the Sun multi-sig chat, and I'm like, dude, I'm not signing this shit. Like going through all the call data. So that's my experience, and Val, I know I've said it multiple times. He's a really good trooper on this Sun multi-sig. But yeah, it's just like unless I know exactly what's happening, unless I can see, you know. The call flow and be like, oh, nice, this is right up my alley. It's just like I feel useless, and you hear about all of the like, oh, there was a mistake made in a wallet I controlled as like news items, and yeah, I don't want any mistakes to be made in a wallet I control, basically.
You
If
don't
you've
want to be
seen
the
that
guy who burned
TikTok.
200K by accident.
Yeah, I don't want to be that guy. I've come close to being that guy before. And that's just not my jam at all. I like being 100%. It's 100%. If I'm not 100% confident, I'm just like, we can be doing other things. But yeah, multi-sigs, I'm sure all of us have complex relationships because it's like somehow 10 to 15% of our jobs is just freaking signing multi-sig transactions. But yeah, it is what it is.
Okay, we're approaching the hour mark. That's all I had on my end and what I saw from the community. But guys, the proposal is there, and if you in the future want more clarification about something, or if you have other questions that pop up, I'm going to post the proposal one more time in the event chat. Please comment, and with issues such as the multi-sig, questions about that. If you would prefer someone on the ecosystem to be a part of the multi-sig, like make your feelings known. And if enough people get behind it, then changes like that to the proposal can be made. I mean, this is what governance is all about.
It is.
Get
And
involved, y'all.
I'll make sure to keep an eye on the Discord.
Awesome.
Cool.
And
Nice. Yeah.
we'll don't worry about that necessarily, Corn. We'll surface the important stuff for
Yeah.
you with Telegram.
All right.
I
That'd
know
be
I know what a
great.
pain it is monitoring Discord. Actually, become a mod, Corn. Now that I think about it.
Yeah. That's great.
Yeah,
I'm going on
we'll
vacation.
make
This is
it
great
easy.
timing.
Yeah, perfect.
Can
Corn,
take
the new
over.
mod. He's sacrificing his own responsibilities
You're not
to
busy, are
tell
you?
people when moon. But
Yeah.
yeah. Really awesome. Thanks a lot for your time, Corn and Val. I think
Yeah.
this
Thank you
is
so much.
really valuable insight and clarity, etc. And yeah, I mean, I look forward to continuing our work together. You know, I think it's always good to have people you know for a fact are abiding by best practice, and hopefully eventually you feel the same way about us. But very cool.
Yeah, it's been great getting to know you guys.
Oh yeah.
Heck yeah. Heck yeah. Bullish on this proposal.
Very.
Thank you. Thank you again, Corn. Thank you, Val. Thanks everyone for stopping by. Yeah, I'll see you around, and I'll see you on the forums.
Yes.
Yes.
See you on the
Have a good
forums.
rest of
Thank
your
you,
week.
everybody. Take care,
Bye, guys.
guys.